It's Mel K Show, and I'm Mel K, coming to you straight from Manhattan on December 29th, 2020. Wow. I'm here with my partner, Rob Reilly. How you doing today, Rob?
I'm doing great today, Mel. It's we're getting close to the end of the year here. It's obviously a crazy time. I know you had an exciting day of digital soldiering.
Well, yeah, I went on with some good people. I went on with Robert David Steele, and we talked about the money situation and what's going on in the country and our what we think is ahead. I talked to Al Basoni, who is a great digital soldier from London, England, and I am trying to get out there and talk to as many people as possible and kind of spread what I have to offer. And it's for the good of good versus evil. So, the more people that hear truth and facts and maybe some things they don't know, the better.
Right? This is our way to fight the battle. Everyone needs to be fighting the battle in their way, whatever way that is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. What do you have for me today from the New York apocalypse?
New York apocalypse. Well, not surprisingly, our mayor, Comrade de Blasio, is very proud of the jail statistics. So he recently said that as relates to his criminal justice reform, taking monumental steps to make it fairer and more humane. Now, I just don't really get that. I mean, I understand where there's better ways to treat people who are incarcerated, and obviously our criminal justice system could do a lot better. But just letting people flood out in the streets, this catch and release thing is really hurting every community.
Yeah.
And
Also, judging bail not by the crime, but by the color of your skin or what you have in your bank account, is becoming normal. It doesn't,
yeah, it's really terrible, and it hurts the people because the people that they need services when they get out. And if they
right,
don't have those services, then they're on the street. We've been meeting them, in our
right.
neighborhood. We
True.
see them all
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
So evidently the New York City jail population is down 27% in the last 10 weeks, and it's currently at its lowest level since 1946. So
Right, right. In New
that
York City. No wonder our crime is up 200%. We wake up every morning to 14 gunshots all over the city.
Now it'll be interesting to see what our population is, because I know our population is shrinking like crazy, but clearly this catch and release thing is an absolute disaster.
Yeah.
In other New York news, Cuomo is thinking about opening up the Javits Center again. For those of you who don't know, Javits Center is our big convention center, and because of this, obviously new strain and the second or whatever wave we're talking about of the pandemic,
Right.
scamdemic, he is positioning to instill as much fear as possible in the people, and so he's kind of messaging. I think basically that messaging is that they're going to try to shut us down like they have in Southern California and other
Right.
places.
Right. Yeah, local hospitals say that they're not overwhelmed, but according to Cuomo, it's a disaster. They're overwhelmed. And I mean, none of this makes any sense, what he's doing. And
Yeah,
then
well,
also, yeah, go ahead.
the local hospitals. We've been seeing all these dancing nurses and doctor videos, which is really, it's kind of a slap in the face. But I heard something really interesting from And We Know News, which is
Yeah,
it's a
he's
really
great.
great digital soldier that you can find still on YouTube, AWK News. But he was saying that he had heard that a lot of these dancing doctors were and nurses were kind of trying to send a message to the people that in fact they weren't overwhelmed, that this wasn't what they're saying. And so that's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, if that's true, that would make me feel better because every time I see it, I'm sick,
Pissed
sick
off,
to it.
right?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think everyone is. It's so disrespectful. And, if people are dying, it's bad. If people aren't dying, it's worse in these masses. But honestly, people in New York, anyone that works in a hospital or whatever, if you talk to them, one on one, they're saying that it's not overwhelmed, that this isn't real. And that, a lot of, and said this the other day, but a lot of the ER and ICU patients are, they're being tested as COVID or that they have COVID and that manipulated test, but they're not sick from it. And those are two very different things. But I know that they're all saying that they're conflating the numbers inside the hospital. So, obviously Cuomo and de Blasio care very little about the people and our health and a lot more about politics and perception. So,
Yeah. And in another scam, I wanted to revisit the Nashville bombing.
right,
I saw some video that came out today. It was a not dash cam, but body cam video. And there was some really interesting things from one of the cops' body cam video. So one thing so it's a cop walking around, and you can hear in the background the announcement that, if you can hear this announcement, evacuate, evacuate. Um, one of the police officers says that mentions the AT&T building and that there's cables and a lot of communication equipment there. That was very interesting. Um, and then someone said in the same video, it seems like something out of a movie. Like
right,
we've heard that a lot
right,
from our back channel, which is that we're
right,
watching a movie. The other thing that was particularly interesting is that when the blast did go off, they didn't yell like "Holy shit" or jump.
right,
It just seemed like matter of fact. And I know that the recording was a woman's voice, and they were saying that, well, this is a lone actor. So what did he
right.
do? Record someone's voice doing this?
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that too, that the voice warning people was a female voice, and they're saying that he acted alone. This is and that he's dead now. So we're dealing with the same thing that kind of cover up that happened in Vegas. Too many coincidences to be possible that it's not absolutely BS what they're telling us right now. We got to keep digging, and everyone that's watching, keep digging, because what happened with Vegas, they shut the door. All these people, they wanted answers, they wanted the truth, and I know that all these years later, MGM has to pay them, but that's not enough. They closed the door on that case, and it was far bigger. And we know from the back channel that it included assassination attempt and other things that were going on in Vegas at the time. And that was kind of a false flag, and that there were shooters on the ground. But none of this ever got to the mainstream media. We can't let this happen again. This is that building, that AT&T building is very important to the NSA. They were doing audits there. They took down, they you weren't allowed to fly over. I don't know if you are at this point. They are connected to the Georgia runoff, Dominion, Smartmatic, all of it. So the idea that this lone gunman in his 60s was this sophisticated, and the damage doesn't match what they're saying, and there's looks like a lot of evidence that there was some kind of something came from the sky, whether a direct energy weapon, a missile, who knows, but it looked like that there certainly wasn't this one truck that imploded. And like I said yesterday, there was no crater under it, and the implosion was devastating. It looked like a nuclear bomb. So who knows? I hope we find out, but I just hope like alternative media and all our friends and digital soldiers keep pushing, because the story they're giving us is clearly not real,
Yeah,
and we need to know the truth. Yeah.
agreed.
Speaking of knowing the truth, friends, we have our favorite people over there at the World Health Organization coming out today and telling us that they're saying that they have no evidence at the World Health Organization. The chief scientist, Skumaya Swaminathan, she says that during a virtual press conference just today, that she doesn't believe that they have any evidence that the vaccines are going to prevent people from actually getting the infection nor passing the infection. And even if you get a vaccine now, the World Health Organization is saying that we'll have to continue wearing masks and social distancing for the near future. What?
Yeah. I mean, I've read so many things about, the dangers of mask. I know Biden is talking about 100 days of masking. I still remember 2 weeks to flatten the curve.
Right.
So yeah, this is all bullshit.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. I mean, on top of that, where we are is in crazy health news, if we want to stick with crazy health news. Harvard now, look, as things come on and we learn more and more, and then the Epstein with the Harvard and the Gates with the Harvard, it's just, I can't even believe that it's so embarrassing for Harvard. But anyway, today, Harvard, a panel over there claimed that not all people who give birth are women. What? There's, they're now calling them birthing people. Harvard Medical School Department Twitter account referred to women as birthing people in a tweet and said not all who give birth are women. They're saying that globally, ethnic minority, pregnant, and birthing people suffer worse outcomes and experienced during and after pregnancy and childbirth. I'm confused because I was under the impression that you had had to have certain body parts to be able to give birth. But apparently, Harvard is once again pushing the line. I don't know if this is part of their transhumanism, medical experimentation, that they've actually made it possible for other than women to have babies. But if they have, that's even more disturbing. But basically, they're saying that because of health disparities and resources for providers and inequality, that they are now going to refer to anyone who has a baby as birthing people. I
Yeah,
don't know what to tell
it's
you.
all about dehumanizing,
Yeah,
creating kind of this emotional, mental confusion of people,
right.
and which creates division, fear, doubt, and allows control. So
Yeah,
we know that, and we can see it. We just want people to see that all this crazy stuff, there is a method to their madness, and
right.
it's madness.
It is madness. It seriously is. On top of that, we got a little new woke society madness. But I'm happy to see this because I think I know that we're experiencing it with your kid, with my nieces. A high school student in Nevada has filed a lawsuit against it, that he's being indoctrinated, coercive ideological indoctrination. He happens to be mixed race, a white father who passed away and a black mother, and he goes to a taxpayer funded charter school where their central curriculum is the critical race theory BS curriculum that forces students to associate aspects of identity with oppression. And in this lawsuit he filed, good for him and his mother, in Clark versus State Public Charter School Authority in Nevada, the kid said and his mother claimed that their First and 14th Amendment rights were violated, and because students were told that by refusing to identify with an oppressive group, they were exercising their privilege and underscoring their role as the oppressor. This child is fighting back. There should be many more parents, I hope, fighting back. There's this Illinois-based Schoolhouse Rights that is filing the suit, and it's a civil rights litigation in defense of students' freedom of conscience and public education and the rights of parents to guide and direct the upbringing of their children. This school, obviously, anything that says democracy in it, the school is called Democracy Prep in Las Vegas. And basically, the family has been fighting a year-long battle to keep him out of these classes and out of this environment that they feel is hostile. They say he's felt discriminated against, and that he's been forced to be in a mandatory year-long sociology of change course that's required is the point, for graduation, and also a change the world course that is also required, and forces students to carry out political and social work projects chosen by the school. Now, this curriculum, the mother says that she was working. She's a single mother. Her husband has passed. So she said she wasn't really paying attention, but that it's become more and more obvious, and that it's become coercive and indoctrination, and it's having detrimental effects on her child, who is mixed race again. And this new curriculum has inserted consciousness raising and conditioning exercises under the banner of intersectionality and critical race theory. But these kids are forced to admit that something's inherently wrong with them. And this kid's getting caught in the middle. And it's basically teaching that kids should fight back against their parents and society and authority, and unlearn and relearn how the oppressive structure keeps them down, and how family arrangements and the I mean, it's horrible, and the nuclear family and religious practices and other things are all basically negative and need to be unlearned in order to have a fair society upcoming. So I don't know what's going to happen in this kid's lawsuit, but good for him. And I would think that there would be more people fighting back, because this is absolutely out of control.
You know, it's one thing as adults to deal with some of this stuff because we've kind of developed to a point, hopefully, where we have a little more discernment. But, you know,
Right.
I have a high school age son, and with this new Zoom school program, we're seeing a lot more of this. And not only are we seeing more of it, but I feel like they've amped it up a lot.
A lot.
I know
Yeah.
my son, he was asked in one of his classes what pronouns they like to use. And he also had to write a paper, and he chose a paper on one of Trump's speeches, and he felt compelled to write it against his will, otherwise to be ridiculed in class or
Right.
risk getting a bad grade.
Right.
Now, we
Right.
talked about it, and he said, I don't believe what I'm saying, but if I don't do it, it's really not going to serve me.
Yeah.
And, I've heard a lot of people talk about how to handle that, and I understand where he's coming from. But at the same time, we're going to have to be fighting back. Hopefully this changes, but young people are really getting impacted by this, and it's really terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, young people turn over the next leaf. You're going to go to a college campus. In this case, another Ivy League. They're so embarrassing. I'm calling them now the Poison Ivy League. So another Poison Ivy League school, Cornell University. So what's happening there is that Cornell student reps are targeting other reps and basically having them kicked out of student leadership and all different positions because they're opposing an effort for the college Republican Democrats and the progressive groups at Cornell University to defund and disarm campus police. And actually, this is so sad, but it's led by a journalism dean that calls for censorship in his class already. Journalism professor, he calls for the rejection of neutrality. And now his the school's site, College Fix, students at Cornell University have moved to oust any student representatives who voted against disarming and disfunding college police. And basically, according to this report, students that failed to pass a resolution calling for defunding and disarming police on Cornell's campus are being doxxed. Their opposition is calling for them to be removed. They're calling for them to be denounced publicly. It says that 15 student assembly members basically went on stage and poured out all their traumas and fears and all how they're so scared of the police and the police on campus, and basically said that the white students weren't, that they're not entitled to their opinion, and that them not wanting cops on campus shouldn't matter because it's not them that are being attacked, even though it's Cornell University and you would think that they'd be a little more advanced. But basically, they are threatening these kids that voted against defunding and disarming the police. They're saying they're going to spread their faces all over social media. We will never forget. Their campus careers are over. And then the woman who's leading it, student Dakota Johnson, she actually said to one of them, as a white man, you cannot be the arbiter of what is and isn't racist and who is and is not a good person. You will never be an arbiter because you are a white man and you are part of the problem. And this is like public knowledge there. And basically, they're taking away these people's rights to, have safety and security on the campus. I don't know if you've ever been up to Cornell, but Cornell and Ithaca, they're in a place where it's college towns. And then right outside, it's communities. A lot of times the college is supporting the community. But I mean, they say that there's a campus rape problem. So what, there's going to be no cops, no guns on Cornell's campus, which is very secluded. And again, this has been going on all over University of Chicago, Harvard, a bunch of these other very liberal, very wealthy schools are allowing a group of organizers that are hell-bent on turning the colleges into Marxist training camps, basically destroy people's lives because they want safety and security and law and order on their campus. And basically they're getting away with it. The saddest part is that this is being run by a journalism professor at Cornell. So,
Well, this is exactly what they're doing, across the world, which
right,
is, this intersectionality, critical race theory, which is a
right,
tool used by these, communist Marxists to
right,
divide and, make us subservient to
right,
some sort of overlord,
right.
decision making, which, I think I'm all for discourse and making reasonable, rational
But
decisions.
that's
And
not what's happening. They're not allowing
exactly, I know.
discourse. They're not allowing, but also that they're demanding that these students that voted against defunding and dismantling the police on the college campus, they want to destroy their lives because they want to be safe and secure. Cornell's very remote, and the truth of the matter is college campuses have a lot of drinking, a lot of infiltration from outside, apparently a big rape problem. So like, who are they protecting by getting rid of the cops on college campuses? But apparently Cornell is okay with this kind of behavior, and these big universities have to be called out, and we have to stop, funding I don't know if we give them money. They're very every Ivy League and my school, NYU, are very well endowed. They don't need 10 cents from the government, but I hope that we're not giving them money. But this goes to the next level. I just thought this was funny. The Paris National Opera dishes classics like the Nutcracker and Red Shoes to make room for minorities in opera. What? Why? They're not going to do Nutcracker anymore because it's too white. I mean, who? It's so crazy. Oh my God, I forgot also another one of my woke college stories. This is close to the Poison Ivy League. It's University of Michigan, great school, right? But they now have a Words Matter task force. Meanwhile, University of Michigan costs $65,000 a year for out of state. But anyway, their Department of Information and Technology Services Department, they've created a new blacklist for well, not a blacklist. They've created a new list of words that are possibly offensive and should be not used on campus, including picnic, brown bag, and blacklist. And it says to effectively communicate with consumers, it is important that ITS, that's the Information and Technology Services Department at University of Michigan, evaluate the terms and language conventions that may hinder effective communication, harm morale, and deliberately or inadvertently exclude people from feeling accepted to foment a healthy and inclusive culture. How does picnic, brown bag, or blacklist interfere with such a thing? I don't know. But that's our day in wokeness news. What else do you got?
There's a lot of crazy stuff. Did we talk about the Lincoln statue in Boston?
Oh God, no, we didn't. So Boston is now removing, I don't know who the mayor is of Boston, but I'm sure he's a pal of de Blasio if he's doing this. So in Boston, they're removing a beautiful, amazing statue of, I've actually seen it, of President Lincoln, and that honors the emancipation of the slaves. Well, it's being removed. And the reason it's being removed is because he's white. And they don't even deny it. The articles actually says this. So to me, I mean, President Lincoln is now being vilified and removed in Boston, for all places. One of the original 13 colonies, was Massachusetts. But they're selling, and the statue is celebrating emancipation, but I guess it doesn't matter.
There's some good news out there in Poland.
Yeah,
that Poland is now
taking a stand against.
Yeah, so Poland is taking a stand against censorship, and what they've instituted some sort of a law that says that Facebook and Twitter and probably some other social media platforms will get fined 2.2 million per incident if they censor, which
Right.
censorship against their rules and regulations. So it's nice to see them fighting back. I think we need to get this censorship under control because we were founded on free speech. That's our first.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that's one of the big things that goes away if and when, which will never happen, Biden becomes president. But I'm not worried about that. Number two, also on top of that, this is good news too. If you've been following the trafficking, the child trafficking, and some of the other horrendous things that have been dropped on the back channel about international rings for all kinds of nefarious stuff. It turns out, as I've been saying, that the Russia Federal Security Service and the U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency have been working together over the past several years, led by the Justice Department. And they've conducted a special operation to uncover a criminal network that was engaged in trafficking cocaine, and I'm sure other stuff from South America to Russia. The FBS said Tuesday that they got 330 kilograms of cocaine, possibly worth 1 billion ruble, which is $13 million that was seized. And they say that the Federal Security Service, jointly with the Drug Enforcement Agency under the U.S. Department of Justice, has been conducting for some time a multi-stage international special operation to stop illegal activities of transnational criminal groups specializing in trafficking from South America to Russia and other European countries. This is excellent news. As I've said all along, I believe that there's an alliance of countries that have been working with our military intelligence and the Trump administration and the White Hats to eradicate trafficking around the world. So when I saw this article, I thought, okay, great, good news, because it means that this is actually happening. So it's good to hear positive news about Russia and America working together in a positive sense, because I believe that in many ways our relationship with Russia is positive, and that our media and the Democratic Party and all of the Trump haters have created a unnecessary Russia, 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 anti-Russia campaign. And quite frankly, the one thing that Putin is against is pedophilia, trafficking, and he's very hard on drugs and all kinds of, bad stuff. I mean, he's the one that said the New World Order is run by Satan. So it's good to know that the Russia, is what it is, but that there is good relations and a good situation with them working together in trafficking. So let's hope it's not just drug trafficking, but it's also human organ and children.
Well,
So
you know what
yeah,
they say about the enemy of my enemy, right?
right, is my
Yeah,
friend. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
but I think that the whole Russia narrative was created by the Democrats and the think tanks and the New World Order folk and the UN and all these people to make us look at Russia and not China. The one thing Russia is Russia first. And the one thing America should be in every other country is their own country, their own people, their own culture, their own language, their own borders first. And if we can, and there's plenty of money, these hoarders have been hoarding it. And I think we'll see something come of that soon too. But I think that if you look at China and then you look at Russia, it's very clear that every time that they're saying Russia, 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 they're pointing away from China, who in my opinion, is the real nemesis right now, and have really the attack that they've placed upon a country and the infiltration since Clinton, actually since H.W. Bush was the first ambassador to China. So it goes back. And as a side note about China, I found out, I mean, I'd known this, but I never really thought about it. But China has a sister city program with some American cities. And of course, it's all the usual suspects. As a matter of fact, they have 200 sister cities in the United States. Now, these sister cities, I used to see, like when I lived in LA, Beverly Hills sister city was Paris, and it's on the things. And I always thought that's so weird, but but I guess it's something
I
that they
remember
do.
that from
Yeah,
when I was younger too.
right.
Yeah.
So anyway, so what it is it's a long-term partnership between two communities in two countries where culturally, technically, education, and business exchanges are made. Well, this is with the CCP, Communist Chinese government, and Beijing is the sister city, and they have 200 sister cities between the United States and China. Oddly enough, Oakland, California has 17 sister cities in China. Imagine that. China's capital also shares sister cities with Washington, D.C. and New York City. And apparently, they have them all over our country. We have them here: Birmingham, Mobile, Little Rock, New York, Tempe, Phoenix, all over California, and Boulder, Denver. So a lot of the same places where it appears that there's been CCP infiltration and honey traps and all this stuff going on. They also are sister cities, linking communities between China and the US in actual agreements. China is the CCP. They are a communist country. Why they are allowed into these kind of agreements, why they're in the UN at all, even though now they run the UN, is all just pointing to what we're seeing with the progressive push to take away our freedom and our liberty and everything, to make us a part of China. And these sister cities need to break these contracts. We need to know what mayors and governors are in bed with China at this point. I know Pompeo says he has a list. Well, I think it's time to release such a list. But second, another thing that's happening there is China is now, well, it's not China as much as that it's there's new reports about Apple, that Apple is getting a lot of their work done in China by the Uyghurs in slave labor camps. And there's more and more information coming out about it. And the worst part is that Apple is continuing to lobby against the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act. It's a bill that's intended to punish Chinese companies for utilizing forced labor of persecuted Muslims. And apparently, Apple's been fighting against it along with Soros and a few other companies. And it's basically what they're saying now is that Apple's supply chain has not changed, and for the last 10 years they've been using this Foxconn, which is guilty of they say many foreign human rights organizations say that their Foxconn's first had emerged as the focus on the long shifts, low pay, suicide rates of people there. But now, over the past few years, it looks like as China's currency has gotten stronger and they've developed more, and obviously their incomes are going up over there. Now the problems are that they're using actually there's 1 million, they say, Muslims in concentration camps, AI concentration camps, even scarier, and that Apple's products are produced by an extremely complex array of about 1,000 suppliers out there and all over around the world. And that this one that they're talking about is put out by the Tech Transparency Project. And they're saying that thousands of prisoners in Xinjiang province were dispatched to work as forced laborers in factories run by Lens Technology, one of Apple's most crucial and long-serving suppliers. So Apple really needs to, all these companies doing business with the CCP, because everything in China is owned by the CCP. If people don't
I
understand this.
I was in Silicon Valley for about 10 years way back when, and I remember Foxconn and I remember some of these stories,
Right.
and you had mentioned it, and it brought back some of the things that I had read way back when, where they build these like massive like factory cities, and they
Right.
were having problems with people committing suicide, so they needed to put up bars and suicide
Nets.
nets. Yes,
Right. I
like
remember that too. And so
it's
basically,
crazy.
now that they've built there's these million they say Uyghurs that are in concentration camps, literally, and they're saying that that they're working there. They also say that it's at the Amazon and Tesla plants there too, and basically that they're ignoring this. And Apple has done zero to try to push for anything to be done about it. And they're building these, like you're saying, these campuses, these factories inside the complexes that are slave labor. And if these people, this is free labor that Apple, they say Tesla and Amazon, this Tech Transparency Project, all are using this slave labor. And
There's been there's always been a lot of talk about some of the sneaker companies doing the same
right, oh yeah,
thing. Um, look, I'm all for capitalism and people making a profit, but there needs to be certain standards of decency, humanity, kind of moral compass at the
mm,
leadership. And if it's all about this oppressive labor and not taking care of your people, you're really not doing a service to humanity in any way, shape, or form. So that's the Luciferian,
yeah.
you know,
Well, they're not
agenda.
people. They're just feeders. They're just there for that. And we better wake up in America, because if Joe Biden ushers in the CCP into America, that's going to be happening all over the country. I told you yesterday, I played that clip from that Zoom call with Biden, where he was talking about, it was with I guess Black Lives Matter people, and he said by 2040 America is going to be minority white. The minority in America is going to be white people. And I just thought, wait, how are we going to all be in FEMA camps? It just, I don't
Yeah.
understand. So, this is very scary stuff, and it's very real. And the fact that the rest of the world is allowing there to be concentration camps where Muslims are being forced into labor, because there's another story here that, as disturbing as can be, that and we've talked before about the that in those camps they're organ harvesting and other things like that. Also, it's horrible, forced, all kinds of forced stuff. But there's a new thing out that says that they're using lungs, that they are literally organ harvesting, but going there and taking out people's healthy lungs and using them for people to treat coronavirus. So imagine that. I can't imagine, but there's apparently a huge organ harvesting ring going on over there. And a lot of it is from these people in these concentration camps. I mean, it sounds as bad as the Holocaust concentration camps. And it apparently nobody in America that does business with China seems to be saying or doing anything. They're just ignoring it. I mean, the NBA season just started in China.
A lot of people don't know, even I'm just saying in mid-level, I mean, at the highest levels they do, but a lot of people working day to day may not know.
Right. Well,
Uh,
that's the point of how we live here. This
right.
constant information, debt slavery, like all the propaganda, Hollywood, everything. Another thing is that Hollywood, I'm getting these things because I'm in a couple of Hollywood unions. And so I get these, I vote on some stuff. So I get these videos for our movies in the mail usually, but now they're all downloaded. And I'm getting them like for your consideration packages. And I haven't heard of one of these movies, but then I found out that all of these movies pretty much have been being shown in China. So America's not seen any movies this year. And when the Oscars come out and the Golden Globes, everyone's going to say they've never even heard of most of them. And apparently China's still running movie theaters and movies, and it hasn't stopped one bit. And on that note, if you want to go even more into that, I found out something very disturbing today about how many companies in America are actually, we think are American companies, but they're owned, like literally owned by the CCP in China. And they are companies that we all know and love and think are American companies. Well, turns out General Motors, America's largest automobile manufacturer, is partially owned by Shanghai Automotive Industry Corporation. Please note, it was sold to them in 1998. The two companies work in partnership to keep the American brand alive. Even bigger, because GE is involved in everything. And we've always thought GE made in America. Well, wrong. GE is completely owned by the Chinese company Haier, and it was purchased for $5.4 billion in 2016. Okay. I wonder if Joe Biden knows anything about GE's sale to China. But here's even more. So as we were talking about movies, China owns AMC movie theaters. They're the majority stakeholder through one of their companies, Dalian Wanda Group. Smithfield Foods, which if you remember, there was a COVID outbreak at Smithfield Foods and Tyson Foods, both owned major owners by China. Another shell company, WH Group, bought Smithfield Foods for $4.72 billion, even though it's still functioning in America, which is another way to infiltrate. We know from down the street, the Waldorf Astoria Hotel was bought by a Chinese company. Actually, Hilton sold it to them for $1.95 billion in the middle of Manhattan. And they also have a big chunk of Starwood Resorts, which are the W Hotel chain and others. I didn't know this, but China owns IBM's personal computer division. So they acquired Lenovo for $1.25 billion. Lenovo is a totally Chinese corporation that has poured tons of money into IBM. I didn't know this either. They own Spotify. Tencent Holdings Ltd purchased a 10% stake in Spotify, while Spotify purchased the same stake in Tencent. So they did a little woo-woo there. And now the Chinese are bringing Spotify to their market, but they're also bringing their stuff here. I didn't know this either. Tesla. Elon Musk gets exclusive credit for the brains and money behind Tesla, but it turns out a glut of Tesla's shareholders are Chinese nationals. Snapchat, $2 billion, same thing. Tencent, who also bought a big chunk of Spotify, owns Snapchat now. They also come through different shell companies, and they own that platform. Most people think Bill Gates when they think of Microsoft, but it turns out Microsoft's mobile phone division is owned by the China-based FIH Mobile. Hilton Hotels, the good old Hilton bloodline. Chinese aviation and shipping titan HNA purchased a 25% stake in the Hilton hotel chain for $6.5 billion in 2016. H&A also purchased Carlson hotels. Another one we thought was a big American experiment gone wrong. WeWork. Turns out, and think about how many people work in WeWork and their data that goes through there, and how much, theft of technology and other things can be done in those WeWork places. Well, in 2016, WeWork needed access to capital, and they made a deal with Chinese company, Legend Holdings Company, which Legend also has a big chunk in Hollywood. Sotheby's, scarily enough, Taikang Life, based in China, became Sotheby's newest majority shareholder in 2016. The London-based company was bought out by French-Israeli titan Patrick Drawn in 2019, also connected to the CCP. Uber received a $600 million cash infusion from Chinese internet search big Beidou in 2014. Motorola, also owned by China, purchased Motorola Mobility in 2012 for $12 billion. Cleveland Cavaliers, hello NBA. I'm sure they're not the only one, but the CCP owns 15% of the Cleveland Cavaliers. I wonder if LeBron James knows anything about that deal. And Brookstone, you get your catalogs and everything. Well, Brookstone is also owned by China, and there's many more. So, wake up, America. All of these companies, what they do, they come in, they infiltrate, they take the data, they do what they can do, that they replicate it back home. But we want to buy American, but you got to dig a little in to make sure that you're buying American. And I'm all behind Trump making some moves to get these deals. If these companies want to be in bed with the Chinese Communist Party, then they should move to China.
Yeah,
That's my
absolutely.
opinion.
And it's interesting because in addition to the economic impact that these investments, whether they're making money or losing money or whatever,
Yeah.
it's interesting to think about some of the things they do invest in, which drive the agenda. So like a WeWork, which is really, you know, it's this sharing economy. It's like Uber, which is this, it's
Again.
destroying, it's
Right.
destroying a lot of traditional industry, and it's creating the kind of economy and the way that people interact in a new
Right.
world order model. So
Right.
so I think we're going to have to, recognize that sometimes, some of this convenience. So like I saw something about there was a Walmart and somewhere in middle America that they were trying to go all remote or all automatic,
Oh,
automatic
no, with no
cashiers,
people
no
working there?
people.
Right,
And
like the
and
Amazon
people,
place down the
right,
street.
exactly, and the same
Right.
thing. And so, it's really important for Americans and all people to work and have a fulfilling life. They need to interact amongst
I
themselves.
know.
And
So
all
sad.
of this, even the Amazon drone, it sounds cool that you get your stuff delivered, but that's taking jobs away from people. So, I mean, there are benefits to some of these programs, but we have to weigh those against the cost
Yeah,
of
but there's
what it
also
does
a
to
human
humanity.
factor, right?
Exactly, that's my point.
Like right down the street in New York, and I'm seeing them more and more as more places go out. It's not, I'm not missing the Amazon, what are they called? They're grab and go places
Right.
that have no people there. The only people that stock the shelves. There's no humans, there's no checkouts, there's nothing like that. There's just a guard, and then it looks like people that stock shelves, and you just walk in, you show your phone, you take what you need to take, you walk out the door, and it charges you, and that's it. And I see them, they built one right down the street. So I mean, I'm guessing that they're going to be coming up all over New York as real businesses and small businesses close. So that's just another thing to think about. And since we're getting long here, maybe I'll jump out of China. I did want to mention one more thing that I did find out about China, of course, because anyone that's been following the back channel, the military intelligence back channel, remembers that we got some crumbs and stuff about that when Hillary Clinton's server was seized, and I don't know why. There's got to be a reason. Pompeo says he has the 30,000 hidden emails, but that her emails were being CC'd to a Chinese Communist Party company. And people, of course, it was during the pre-election, during the WikiLeaks drop, and everyone denied it. But it turns out that a delegation, I found out today, from a Chinese Communist Party run think tank, identified the US government as carrying out undercover intelligence gathering operations and seeking to coerce foreign actors into backing the Chinese Communist Party's preferred policies, met with Hillary Clinton and most high level military leaders during Obama's administration. This was confirmed today. I saw it in the National Pulse, which is really good reporting. It says the Chinese Association for International Friendly Contact in 2009, when Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, met with Hillary Clinton and senior White House staffers, as well as many military that are now former military. And basically, they pledged that they would work with them going forward to build a united front strategy with the Chinese Communist Party. And Hillary Clinton was all behind this. She also set up of course, a speaking engagement, or they did, for Bill Clinton, which was flagged by our own NSA as too dangerous. And the report says that this CAIFC is a front for the former PLA GPT, which may now report directly to the CCP Military Commission for Political Work and the Ministries of State Security, Civil Affairs, Foreign Affairs. And it turns out that also one of the people that met with them with Hillary Clinton was Admiral William Owens, who was Bill Clinton's Joint Chief of Staff in '94. And that they said senior generals from the United States had frank and extensive discussions on furthering relations between arms of the Chinese and United States military, and exchanged their ideas on issues of common interest. This was headed by Hillary Clinton and her Assistant Secretary Kurt Campbell. And it appears that a lot of these meetings, delegation in the President's Chamber of the State Council, happened in October and November of 2009 during Hillary's heyday in the State Department. So, you want to know how China infiltrated our country? Well, there you go.
Yeah. There's an awful lot of stuff there to consider, but I wanted to take a step back and think about where we are in this movie, right?
Right.
Our audience knows that we believe, and we are highly confident that the White Hats have won, are winning. We are driving to the goal line. There's a lot going on behind the scenes. The election is still kind of lumbering along. There was a lot of different news about election fraud that is bubbling up, and we have some important dates coming up.
Yeah. Well, they refiled Rudy Giuliani and his amazing team. They refiled in Wisconsin, and there's plenty of evidence that there's widespread massive cheating in Wisconsin.
Oh my God! In Wisconsin, I saw that there was a vote audit. The FEC, with Federal Election Commission guidelines. So their guidelines for like failed ballots is
Right.
1 in 250,000, or 0.0008. What they found was a 68% failure rate.
Right.
So that's a massive
And it
discrepancy.
happens. That's why the foreign people are involved. Once a ballot goes through the machine and is failed, then it has to be adjudicated.
Correct.
Then that's when they switch them or throw them out or whatever. And that's horrible. But the good news is that it's Rudy and his team are refiling in Wisconsin, and who oversees the Wisconsin's appeal court? Their worst nightmare, Amy Coney Barrett. So at the end of the day, Wisconsin might come down to her, God willing.
I saw they're talking about PA. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on in PA, but there are over 200,000 votes, that more votes than registered voters.
This is such a travesty.
And that's more than twice the delta,
It's
the
awful.
difference, between a Trump win and a Biden, fake Biden win.
It's terrible.
Georgia, there's 460,000 some odd ballots where there's no chain of custody, which is 2/3 of the counties. So,
Right.
I mean, look, folks, we are, there was clearly a massive fraud.
This election can't stand. No way.
All of this is going to come out.
I
There
agree.
are multiple paths to victory.
Yeah.
Um,
I just
uh,
wanted to call out real quick about Georgia before we move on, because it's
yeah,
getting long and we'll have to, we have to, every night I feel like we have to do a number two. But one of the most nefarious and to me, the most disgusting swamp creatures, my opinion, is this guy, Mark Elias. He is well known for being one of the Clinton operatives at Perkins Coie law firm. And I talked about back when I used to do shows with CW, the Transition Integrity Project, and how 2 years ago, Mark Elias, who was behind the phony Russian dossier when he was working for the Democratic Party during the Hillary campaign, he set up a whole transition integrity project that was basically what's playing out now, where all these Democratic lawyers would go around and try to change election laws because of disenfranchised electors. Well, anyway, Mark Elias is back at it. He is the one that is fighting against the recount in Georgia. And it turns out that, I mean, this guy goes way back. I mean, very, very nefarious. He's always been sticking his nose into elections and fighting and fighting. He was fought for the Affordable Care Act, which destroyed my personal life at the time. And anyway, he's known as the best election stealing lawyer, according to my favorite president, Donald Trump. So he's back at it, and he's fighting in Georgia. And the judge in Georgia agreed with him today and threw out a case. I believe it was Eldon Wood's case. And who is the judge in Georgia? None other than Stacey Abrams' sister. And that is just really, the swamp goes so deep. So Stacey Abrams is clearly involved, who didn't accept her own defeat. Now we know it was probably a way bigger defeat than we even know of, but she's now saying that she has 2 million already mail-in ballots for the runoff on the 5th. But it turns out that her sister is the judge handling the recount case, with this Mark Elias defending, pushing for them not to recount. And so here we go again with the same people. I
yeah.
also found out today that I don't know what Stacey Abrams' background is. I'm going to look into it. I didn't know her sister was the judge handling the election fraud in Georgia. That's bad enough. She should have recused herself. But yeah, they don't do that in their world. But on top of that, Stacey Abrams is, I believe, a member of the Council of Foreign Relations and went to Bilderberg. What kind of operative is this woman? She's involved in everything that is destroying America, and they have her on the cover of the Vogue as as the new beauty, and all this stuff. So Stacey Abrams' situation is very, very shady. Throw in Mark Elias, and we are talking about election fraud on steroids. So,
Yeah.
that
Some of this stuff is so crazy, and like we said, like where we are, and I call this the big reveal, because we got to slap people in the face. They got to wake up. They got to see what's going on, and unless you hit them hard enough, they may not wake up. So all
yeah.
that's going on.
So, so let's end on some good news. There's some good
Yeah.
positive stuff. First of all, it's not super positive, but they Mnuchin is sending out the $600 checks. Trump says that there'll be
Woohoo.
more. I know. Gonna pay half of my utility bills for the month of January. But anyway, but he is sending them out. He said that most people will get them in direct deposit right away, and hard checks in a week or before a week. So that's just for the 600. They're still fighting for the additional money. God willing, that'll happen. At least for families with children, God willing. I know people are suffering big time. Also, the PPP goes back in, and $300 on top of unemployment. So, that's a little bit of hope at the end of the tunnel. I think Trump's not even begun to fight that battle, but he will. And then another nice thing I saw is that Trump is signed a new executive order for many children are suffering at home in many ways with homeschooling, not just for obvious reasons, but also because some kids have like learning disabilities or need a little extra help with reading or math or whatever, and they're not getting it at home. Their parents
Well,
are
it's school
working.
choice,
Right.
right?
So
You know.
anyway, yeah. So Trump, this is a nice story. Trump has he signed on Monday an executive order to provide scholarship funds for students seeking in-person learning alternatives, so that kids that need help and are not being served by the online public school COVID lockdown pandemic can have other options because they didn't. So I think that's great news. If you have kids and you're worried about them and you want them to have other alternatives, go look up what Trump passed for school scholarships and get on the list because
Yeah.
your kids deserve better than they're getting offered right now.
Yeah, as it relates to the stimulus, I like to I really like the tweet that Trump put out, which is that a lot more money is coming, and not
Yeah,
that we really want that to happen, but look, they've locked a lot of us down for a very long time and shut
right,
businesses, and people need the help. But
right.
I think there's a lot more going on. There always is, but this stimulus money, which all of this pork that's going overseas, I think
Yeah,
I think he can hold that for 45 days, and in 45 days, this landscape might look a lot differently.
right,
So I think he's got some remedies there.
right.
Uh, I also know that it's being tied up by Mitch McConnell, and there's a lot of political gamesmanship going back and forth. I think, again, all of this is part of the reveal. And I
Yeah,
think I believe wholeheartedly that our president has our back. I believe that we have resources that he will bring to bear from some of the military action and
right.
executive orders that we know
Exactly.
that have been
Yeah,
put in
there's a
place
bunch
for
of,
some
yeah.
time.
Hmm.
So I think our country is going to be in very good financial shape. He's been talking about the the great, the next year being the best year ever, and I really do believe that we're going to be on track to have
Yeah.
a fantastically positive economic experience as
As
we get
long as
through
we
this.
fight and make sure that this election is not stolen, there's plenty of evidence that this election cannot stand. I don't know what he's doing. It doesn't look to me like he needs to do much other than enact the executive orders, and I'm hopeful that that'll happen. I don't know what's going to happen on January 6th, but he seems super excited, and he's having a rally on the 4th, so we'll all get to know what he thinks. We'll all get it. I'll get an update from the horse's mouth on the 4th. So anyway, thank you guys for joining us. It's been so much news running in. I could go for another hour and a half, but I just wanted to catch everyone up on where we are and not skip a day with our new show, The Mel K Show. Thank you guys for watching us, for checking it out, your amazing comments. I appreciate you subscribing. We're going to get better and better. I really I like to tell facts and truth that I think are relevant that you're not getting elsewhere. And that's it. So you can follow me on Impulsive Woman at Twitter, Impulsive Woman One Parlor, Impulsive Woman or the Mel K Show at Gab. And my old YouTube channel still has some good deep dives in the playlist section, which was Mel K at Manic in Manhattan. And join us here every day for the Mel K Show update. And Roberto, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at RobReilly1.
Yep.
And I just wanted to remind everyone that January 6th, make your plans,
Yep.
Be active, uh, be part of this great patriotic movement.
Yep.
And I know many of you are. Anyone that can then find a way. People are doing some amazing,
Yep.
work organizing car trains and
Right.
hotels and all kinds of stuff. So, let's show up. Let's support our fellow patriots and our president, and let's get this done.
Yeah, keep fighting because God wins. I believe he's already won, and we are seeing it unfold in the best way possible to wake up as many people. So don't lose the faith, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining. It's so much fun, but it's just the beginning, and I'm gonna keep getting more technical, I promise. Thank you, Rob. Thank you guys, and see you tomorrow. And
Thank
keep
you,
the faith.
patriots.
Bye-bye, everyone. Thank
Bye
you.
bye.